And we're live. Hello, LinkedIn. It is a fantastic day, and it's so glad to be back with you. I'm Marion Spears Carr, and this is the Workplace Wellness Collective. We have an amazing conversation today that I'm so excited about sharing with our LinkedIn audience. But first, let me introduce my partner in crime, uh, the head of the Workplace Wellness Program. Her name is Samana Jetty. She's head of Samani her company Wellness, Jetty Wellness. And Samana, it is so good to be back online and on live with you. It's good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a minute. We haven't done a live together since August. We took a bit of a long sabbatical, but we're back. Welcome, everyone. I am so happy to be here with Marion Spears Carr, and Terry Shu, the CEO of Cooley. This is our first. Now, you've seen all the different colors. Now, we have rebranded. I am the founder and chair of the Workplace Wellness Collective. I also have my company called Jetty Wellness, but this is our first live event with our beautiful purple and yellow logo and this beautiful setting that we have. And we are just here to spend about a half an hour with the CEO of Cooley, Terry Shu, and we're going to talk about not just his app, but we just want to get to know him just a little bit. Now, a couple things about just how this is going to go. Rules of engagement. We want you to comment. We want you to give us a thumbs up. We want you to give us lots of emojis and hearts, whatever you want to do, and ask us questions as well. Terry is here for 30 minutes. I know he's super busy, but he's going to spend 30 minutes with us just to chat. So we're going to get started. But Marian, back to you. How are you feeling? What's up?
Oh, doing great, Samana. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of the Workplace Wellness Collective. We have some amazing events coming up. And more importantly, though, today I want to learn about Cooley. And so, Terry, thank you for being with us. Say hello and share us a little bit about your story.
Sure. It's really an honor to be on this show with Marian and Samana. So my name is Terry, and I'm the founder and CEO of Cooley. We're based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm a Canadian. I was born in China though, and I went to school in Canada and worked in the U.S. After I graduated. My background was in software engineering. I was in software engineering for 12 years. And then I quit my job 3 years ago, wanted to work on something I'm passionate about. And I searched in my brain and found that was one idea that it's kind of I was most passionate about. And it kind of goes back to, helping myself, helping others improve their productivity through well-being. And that kind of goes back to college years where I was kind of hacking my behaviors to help myself be more productive when it comes to study, and it worked. So I wanted to encapsulate all the learnings I have into software. So that's what I'm the most passionate about, and I can see myself continue doing that for the rest of my life and won't getting tired. So that's why we created Keely.
I love that. And I have a question right off the bat, and I love your bio, and I just want to let people know as well. The way that I met Cooley was on TikTok. Now, some of you know I make a lot of TikToks. I am primarily on TikTok, but also on LinkedIn, of course, and on Instagram also. But I met Cooley on TikTok because I saw them make some really great content on TikTok, and it kind of showed up on my For You page, and I'm like, what is this? Who are they? What do they do? And the conversation was so interesting, but also so passionate that I really had to just connect with them. And I just started saying, hey, great work. Love to see another organization, another company that's really passionate and has the same values as the Workplace Wellness Collective, but also individually as the collective. We have Marian as our vice chair. We have other individuals. There's Meredith Grendai who's watching. There's David Spinner in the chat comment as well. We are all part of an organization that is interested in supporting wellness through the lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And that was one of the reasons I connected with Cooley. But I want to know from you, Terry. Cooley is such a cool name. Tell me about this name. What does it mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Great. Oh wow, yeah. So Qli means it's a combination of all the cues, and we send a lot of cues to people, to ourselves. So that's why we're
Mhm.
kind of called a Qli. And yeah, the name Q. So the reason we think Q is important in kind of what we do is because Q was created in the middle of the pandemic, where a lot of companies switched from purely physical, like in the office work environment to fully remote, right? Because we all had to, and it was causing a lot of stress, a lot of changes in people's environment. And one of the main changes, you while when you're working in the office, you see your colleague drinking water, go stand up, stretch a little bit, go to lunch. You get these cues to also take care of yourself, do a little stretch, drink water, relax a little bit, have some chat. But when you're working alone at home, you lose those cues. So many people just ended up working nonstop, and because they in their head they imagine the other people are also kind of working without taking any breaks. And so we said, okay, the first thing we need to do is introduce the cues back to people's lives, and then make it as interesting as possible and as convenient as possible. So that's kind of what led to us naming us QLE.
Absolutely on point. I love the idea of taking cues and having that prompt. One of the things that really, when I started studying about your app, and one of the things I really liked about it was the fact that it ties wellness to productivity and ties wellness to being efficient. Because if you think about in the world that I work in, healthcare and life sciences, when the whole idea of wellness, which seems to make sense, when it first came out, it was more that kind of touchy feely, like make everybody feel good and feel, which is all great, right? But when you can tie it back to productivity, when you can tie it back to being efficient and being, that's very interesting to me. I would love for you to talk a little bit about how what your work has done to help people be more efficient and be more productive and still have well-being.
Right. Yes. So that's such a good question. And yeah, so for me and for a lot of people, I think ultimately we experience the most joy and happiness when we're feeling we're productive. We're in that kind of flow state, in our optimal state. So that's my definition of productivity: is how often can I, put out all the distractions. Quiet down all the internal triggers, self-criticism, so that I'm able to find a period of time where I can focus and do the work I enjoy the most and do produce my best work. So that's my definition of productivity. And then over the past 15 years, I always have kind of experiment on myself on how to get to that point, how to be productive in my own definition. And the first few years I tried these kind of productivity hacks. How do you optimize your calendar, set up perfectly plans so that you can do twice as much in the same period of time. And then I failed so many times, like I couldn't follow the schedule rigorously. Things just uncertainties come up. I wasn't able to accomplish things I set out to do on that day, and I'm like, I am a loser. I suck. I'm not productive. Why is this? I'm so lazy, right?
Yeah.
And then my breakthrough come after I understood this mindset of growth mindset, and also kind of listening your internal voice. And then I realized I have to be able to accept myself fully, and then just look at things quiet down all my kind of internal, like my high expectation that I set for myself that was unrealistic. I have to kind of kill those things that I learned from environment growing up. Also, sometimes just kind of maybe watch one motivation video. I'm like, I want to be that person, but I can never be that kind of person. So eventually I realized the solution to me, and I think for many people, is through wellness. How can you with the mental state, feeling calm, feeling at ease with yourself, so that you're not constantly judging yourself. Then you can say, if I do this, I'm able to accomplish this, that's great. If I'm not able to accomplish it, I still my contribution is a kind of learning process. And I found that's the only thing that would work for many of us who had to deal with those internal states. So that's how we link well-being to productivity. And so I'll kind of stop there.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned flow state, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. I had the great honor of working with Mihai Csikszentmihalyi as a mentor. He was a mentor of mine, and so that whole idea about flow state and how it connects with where we are in our workplace, where we are in our personal lives, all that's absolutely exciting. For those of you who are watching live, we got a lot of people shout out. Meredith is checking in, Rebecca, David Spinner. We already mentioned Jen Hensel. Good to see you. Angie Alexander checking in. Thank you so much. And if you have questions while we're on live with Terry, please post them in the comments. Samana, I'm going to kick it to you for the next question.
Yeah, the minute Terry started talking about flow, and I'm like, I just saw Marion's like eyes lit up. I'm like, yes, this is exactly. Actually, in our micro summit in June, we had another speaker named Diane Allen, and we had an entire conversation. The first segment of our micro summit in June was dedicated to flow and productivity and performance through that dimension of really using our time effectively, but also understanding what wellness means to us. And I love what Marion said is that, you are right. We do used to think that wellness is woo woo wellness, right? We just have to sit in our bathtubs, do our nails. I mean, the girls are doing their nails or whatever, right? Just chilling out. Wellness is not that critical, but wellness now has so many dimensions to it, and wellness is data driven. Wellness is research. Wellness is linked to productivity. We need wellness for our employees. We need wellness for our employers. We need wellness for within ourselves to make sure how we can work better without burning out. So what I want to ask you, Terry, is give me in your very general, or your perspective of developing this company, like what does data-driven wellness mean to you? Like what comes to mind when I say data-driven wellness?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important thing for I think two of the most important things I will mention about data driven. One is so by having enough data, you can have you can have an objective discussion or thought process around what really happened, whether it's about yourself or it's about your team. Because without some data or facts or some like objective standard, then if we kind of rely on our perspectives or opinions, there's often discrepancies based on our past experience. We can interpret the performance or your behavior in different ways. So I think with data, it kind of opens that opportunity where everyone can have a conversation without feeling triggered or like there's some like strong emotion associated with it. And so that's one thing we hope I think that being data driven helps the companies and individuals to be honest with themselves, like look at the facts. What was the trend, right? And it's very hard to argue if that's something some data I entered myself. And in addition, a lot of people, not all, but myself included, I love seeing the data. I love seeing my streaks. I love seeing how my trends, and that's kind of getting that feedback gives me a motivation to keep going, right? That's just kind of just enough to help me build that consistency. Because otherwise, I did 10 things, and I if I only kind of keep track of those in my mind, it just somehow doesn't carry as much weight where I feel, I want to continue. But seeing the data, even though it's just on a digital format, informs me, yeah, I have invested so much time on this. I want to reinforce this, continue doing that. And so I think those are some of the two of the many things that we could, leverage, leverage data.
Mm-hmm. And Marion, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm pretty scientific. I'm pretty analytical. My entire life I've been in healthcare, working in infectious disease surveillance. So for us, data was like the thing that was my bread and butter. Like we need to look at data. We need to look at trends to make informed decisions. So for me, any company, any individual, an organization that can leverage data to make decisions to better employee wellness. I think that's a win-win. And then as an individual, I think that if I can look at my own data and say, hey, I only drank 1 glass of water today, that's not okay.
Not okay.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on data-driven wellness?
Great question for me. So I'm not a data-driven person. If you look at all the different personality profiles that I've ever taken, it's told you that's not the case, right? I'm more intuitive, or I'm more rely on influence and that type of thing. But one of the things I've learned from my industry, which is healthcare, is evidence-based approaches help us solve problems at a higher level. So for me personally, I've had to borrow the traits of understanding data. I had to be more analytical. And when I've done that, then I have a better understanding. And even though it's not my natural tendency to use data, it undergirds my decision making much better. I think about what Chris Argyris teaches is about single loop and double loop learning. Are we solving the right problem? Data helps me figure out, are we solving the right problem? Mm-hmm. So that literally, great. Terry, she just put me on the spot. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, she just put me on the spot. I didn't expect that question, but anyway, so my question back to you, Terry, thank you for that question, Samana.
Now you can handle it. You can handle it. You got it. You can handle it.
It's true. Data helps us understand what problem we solve.
Data doesn't have to be like numerical in my mind. Like, so I have a jar of that I keep track of my self-care. So every time I do something good for myself, I put in a coin and I see, this is my saving. So this is data for me. I don't care how many coins a coin there is. I just know I'm investing in it. It's real.
I love that visual, and I'm a very visual person too. So I need to do that. So my question back to you, Terry, is as you've rolled out your platform and as users have given you feedback, what have been some of the things that were like aha moments? What have been one of those experiences like, well, I didn't really think about that, but maybe we need to tweak it or need to change what we're doing based on data, analytical data, or anecdotal discussions. I'd love to hear what you did as you looked at your users.
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of interesting stories, and obviously we're gonna learn more as we, work with more companies, partner with more, forward-thinking data, companies that are wanting to leverage the power of data. But two stories. One, so last year when we kind of first rolled out this kind of data dashboard, we're able to generate a trend line for the team's energy levels day by day. We had one of the first companies who were using that feature. They saw a dip in their team's energy level in 1 week, and they kind of signaled them to investigate a little bit further on what has happened, why there was a dip. And they realized, that correlates with the team working hard, shipping a important new update, a feature. So obviously that comes with stress and with a deadline. And then they saw that, and then they quickly reacted, I think, by telling the team to take 1 day off. And then so then we can see the energy level went back to normal. So that was the first time we realized, I think having that real-time data is important. And so I kind of just mentioned the real-time. And then another story is, I think, happened to another customer. I think they have like 400 people. And then so we talked to them in April. So they're a team that has an amazing culture. They invest so much effort and energy on their team's holistic well-being, physical, mental, financial, like anything you can think of. And I think they were named one of the best places to work for in their state. And then so we were kind of chatting about using curate, and then they did trial curate for a little bit. And 2 weeks later, we were kind of catching up with them, and they mentioned, we recently just did a half-year employee survey, and then the last time we did it was 6 months ago, and there was so much change between those 6 months that we now have to rethink a much bigger initiative, because there were so many things that came up in this survey that we didn't thought wasn't the issue. And so I think to us, it's kind of an aha moment that why the data needs to be more real time, because 180 days, like half year, that's such a long time to get feedback, and then people already have issues for 6 months. That's kind of crazy to think about. It shouldn't really be longer than a month. So then from then we're kind of start to steer our products towards like how can we get more data quicker to the decision makers so that they can respond within a week or 2 weeks versus half a year, which is really too long. But that has been the kind of status quo, I think, in the industry so far.
I'm loving all the comments. Thank you so much. How amazing is that? Look at all these comments. There's so many comments. There was a question that I think I'm going to ask In just a second here from Angie. So we'll get to that question. But before I get to that question, I really want to close the loop on
Yeah.
what data driven means. So audience, I think I also want to know from you what data driven means, because what I've learned from just being in this room here with Marian and Terry is that we don't really need to look at these complicated dashboards. It can be a jar with some pennies in it for you to
Love it.
visualize what makes sense to you. Okay, so data driven wellness, don't think it needs to be too complicated, but we want you to get out of this conversation is how do we leverage that information to better our wellness so that we can make those decisions, so we're not leaning towards burnout, leaning towards that decreased productivity, leaning towards costing more dollars to the organization that's hiring you. Quitting was something that we've been seeing a lot, where people are like, you know what, I've given up on this job. I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm going to put the bare minimum effort required to work. So those are some of the things I want you to keep in mind. So tell me what data driven means to you. You don't need to be a scientist to know what that is, but I want to know, just if I say those words, what comes into your mind. Audience, put that in the comment. And the question that we have from Angie Alexander, who's an engineer, a professional engineer out of Calgary, and she says, what problems are we trying to solve? That's a great question to ask. So I think when we go to these organizations, Terry, when you are, talking about QLE, what is it that, we really need to get some clarity on what questions and what problems are embedded in the organizations. So what are some questions that you ask a workplace or an organization that is like the standard question that you want to get to know when you want to work with these companies?
That's such a good question. And I imagine the question is referring to like what are the kind of the pain points we're solving for the our customers. Got it. Cool. So so we have two kind of buyer profiles essentially. So one is the HRs, who's overseeing the entire company culture, employee engagement type of activities. And another emerging buyer is just like a manager who wants to give their team something special, maybe above and beyond what the company is willing to offer. So for the HRs, one of the things I mentioned, is this kind of the traditional metrics you're getting, you're using the employee surveys, is sort of a lagging indicator, or attrition rates is kind of lagging indicator, right? When you found out there's a meaningful change, that's kind of already 6 months late or even a year late. And so how to respond faster. That's one of the main drivers for incentives for people, for the buyers to buy, like just they can, so that they can actually influence the result early on versus kind of dealing with the aftermath.
Proactive, preventative. Let's find these downstream problems and fix it before we hit the flood walls. And there's a lot of these other problems that we have to deal with. Is kind of what I'm thinking is the roadmap.
Yes, that's a great summary of that. And for managers, there are two things. One is how to equip some of the managers who are really kind of get promoted because they're really specialized with their expertise, like special professional areas, but maybe are still kind of growing in terms of the understanding of human needs and how to motivate the people, how to deal with different give people what they need in their life so that they can be productive. So part of that problem is like how to make it easy for them to change their behavior so that they can better lead. What are some of the knowledge? And then once you have the knowledge, how do you implement that in your daily behavior? And then in turn helping your team members also change behavior in terms of kind of build better habits. So it's kind of a chain of coaching the coaches.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it too. And one of the things I want to point out, I want to kind of circle back. Jen Hensel posted in the comments, I love these customer use case plus impact, these case impact stories. And I want to come back to one you mentioned. So the two of the stories that you shared with us a few minutes ago, one of the things you talked about was how one of your clients that you're working with already had a really excellent culture, right? And I would love for you to talk about what do you see are some of the key culture competencies companies need to have that either make them a great fit for you or any company need to bring to the table? Because it sounds like, as I think about your work, as you've talked, I'm thinking about these different, some organizations where the culture is kind of not strong and where this might be the first foray into really getting their employees engaged. But what are your thoughts around the competencies that organizations need to have around culture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the what in my mind and trying to do the pattern recognition. So I think what differentiates from a company where we think they have a really amazing culture to, uh, to one with a less amazing culture is whether there's someone in the senior leadership where who really understands people's motivations, who really understands people. We've talked to companies who, uh, you know say they care about well-being, but ultimately all they measure and care about is productivity. Whereas the other companies understand the link, like if you want people to be productive, then the input is work on their well-being, take care of them. Like you cannot control the output, like but you can control the input. Versus just kind of only focus on the output. Like, are you doing the job? Are you kind of putting in enough hours? Are you kind of meeting deadlines? But if you want if we they own that link, like, so they know if I want to, the leaders know that if I want this result, then I need to work on invest in the employees' well-being. And that, I think, in my head, I think that differentiates the companies who have a genuine good culture versus the ones that don't. Yeah, it's a little hard to coach that. I think like I don't know how you can teach that to some other people if you don't have it, but that's what we saw in our company.
Yeah. And
Clients.
I
Yeah.
think and sorry that Marian has kind of exited. We had the screen just kind of went blank. So he's hopefully come back in a second here, but that's okay. We'll continue the conversation. We have about 4 minutes left. So this idea of modeling leaders, modeling behaviors for their employees, leaders investing the right amount of funding to, technology, to training, to development, to the growth of the company. I think that's really important. And we've said this a lot in other shows as well. It really does start at the top because employees are looking at their managers. So if the manager is working, ridiculous numbers of hours, if the managers are burning out, the employees are going to feel like I need to do as much as the manager is, as much as my CEO is, because that is just the culture of the workplace. We are burning ourselves out in this workplace. So it's really important. And you asked, Terry, like, how do we kind of embed that in the culture of the organization? It really does come down, and this is kind of the ultimate a plug for the Workplace Wellness Collective. It really does come down to embodying wellness through the lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We want you to learn. We want to give you the tools. We want to give you the strategies. We want to bring the right people to the organization. We have Nicole North in our collective, who is a learning and development and a leadership coach. So you can coach people to embody wellness. We can coach people to learn new technology. If we can buy an Apple Watch, put it on our wrist, and learn that in a few minutes, I think it's totally possible for leaders to learn some basic competencies that they need to embody wellness, and then investing in the right resources that we need so that we can start to develop these programs and policies and have companies like QLE help us support our wellness so we're not working towards, that burnout, that exhaustion, that lack of motivation, that productivity, etc., that lack of productivity, etc. So maybe I'll just stop there for just a second. There's a couple people that have just said, hey, thank you so much. Lots of wonderful comments here. There was one from Rebecca here that says, yes, that's a win-win. The well-being, input, and the culture of care that creates a productive and happy environment. I'm going to click more here so I can just see more of that comment. And then there's another comment here about Jen, from Jen, and she says, I love these customer use case plus impact stories. So we want to learn more about these case stories from Terry. And if you want to learn more, guess what you're going to do? You're going to hit that workplacewellnesscollective.com link. You're going to come to the Micro Summit because Terry is going to be in Calgary right here with me. So we're not going to do this virtual thing. We're going to be sitting side by side.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes. So any last thoughts from you, Terry? We have about 30 seconds or so as this live ends. What do you want to tell the people that are watching?
Oh yeah, this is such a blast, and yeah, I can't believe 30 minutes just flew by. But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, we're excited. We're looking to partner with organizations who are interested in interweaving well-being deep into their culture through the use of technology. We're integrated with Slack, so meeting the employees where they are to help them change the behavior. So yeah, we'll love to talk to you, and we can be reached at qly.ai. Yeah, thanks for joining.
Awesome. Thank you
Great.
so much. Marian, are you here? Are you coming back? If you're not coming back, that's okay. I think we'll end this live right now. I don't even know how to end this live because Marian does it. Why don't you just give us a comment? I think my camera's being a little weird too. Like everything is just kind of being a little weird right now. But it's time for us to say goodbye. So thank you so much for joining. We will be back for another event next week at the same time with another sponsor from 8-Bit Cortex. We will be talking to Dr. Ty McKenney as well, and lots more events coming up. There's also a LinkedIn audio event on Monday. We are going to be, so Felipe Cofino and myself, we're going to do a LinkedIn audio to talk about HR and how HR can leverage data for their wellness. So that's happening on a LinkedIn audio on Monday. Lots of events leading up to the summit, so come join us. Until then, we will see you soon. Bye.
That's great. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.